And the Cuban Missile Crisis, let me remind you of something. The only reason the Soviets put nuclear missiles in Cuba, well, there are two reasons. Number one, the U.S. tried to coup the government in Cuba. So obviously, when you try to overthrow the government, they're going to feel threatened. That government is going to go look for help. So that's number one. The Bay of Pigs is what I'm talking about. And the other reason, which they don't tell you, is that the Americans put nukes next to Russia first. They put Jupiter missiles in Turkey. And that's why Turkey's a NATO member, because they want something that's in NATO, that's, at the helm of the Middle East and in striking range of the Russians. That's why the Russians put nukes in Cuba, because you tried screwing them first. And that's why Kennedy, they make him out to look like some big hero. Like, I mean, I'm not saying he was, the worst president or something, but listen, Kennedy was embarrassed to admit that he had agreed with the Russians to withdraw the Jupiter missiles from Turkey. He had to hide that because, look at this mentality. Like, diplomacy with Russians is viewed as a bad thing. It's not okay to tell the Americans, yes, I agreed to remove the Jupiter missiles if they remove their missiles. Like, just a straight up deal, clear cut. So to avoid people finding out, they did it, I think, it was a couple months later. So within a year, they removed them from Turkey to avoid anyone realizing what was going on. But they don't tell you that part, right? It's again, this victim mentality, like, oh, America's the victim, the West is the victim. It's always the same people who are the axis of evil, which is, again, this is a Bush term. David Frum, his speechwriter, came up with that, which, again, it goes back to this cartoon, this comic book mentality, the axis of evil. Like, it's some fucking gang of people who drink whiskey and, slap women or something. They try to paint the Iranians, the Russians, the Koreans, the Venezuelans, like anyone who won't give them their resources and won't play ball with Israel is the axis of evil. It's insane. They make geopolitics into a farce. Zelensky is the one who's saying we should hit them with nukes first, not to defend ourselves first, right? So he's going for that whole Bush doctrine, preemptive strikes. And then, of course, they try to sell it to you as being, it's preventative. It's our enemies hate us and they're going to attack us, so we have to imagine the worst thing possible and then attack them first. Right? This is the Israeli mentality. This is the American mentality. The Bush doctrine, the rise and kill first. It's funny because they pretend that they're defending themselves, but by doing that, you become the aggressor, and you are the aggressor.